as the MV Hantavirus makes its way to Tenerife and passengers prepare to be repatriated to their home countries. Health authorities across 12 nations are scrambling to monitor hundreds of people who may have been exposed. The questions being asked tonight are not just about this ship. They are about the virus itself. What exactly is hantavirus? How does it spread? How deadly is it really? And should the rest of the world be worried? Here is what we know.
Given the incubation period of the Andes virus, which can be up to 6 weeks, it's possible that more cases may be reported. While this is a serious incident, WHO assesses the public health risk as low. It also shows why the international health regulations exist and how they work. WHO is working with multiple governments and partners on the response under those regulations. Our priorities are to ensure the affected patients receive care, that the remaining passengers on the ship are kept safe and treated with dignity, and to prevent any further spread of the virus.
Before you leave, watch this exclusive, detailed information on hantavirus. Please do subscribe, like, hype the video next to the comment section, and share your thoughts in the comments.
A recent cluster of viral infections on a cruise ship has dominated public health headlines. The specific pathogen causing this sudden alarm is a rare strain of hantavirus, known as the Andes virus. The concern stems from how the virus attacks the body. It causes sudden respiratory failure and severe cardiac issues, turning what seems like a standard illness into a critical medical emergency. But public health officials are stressing a vital piece of context. Human-to-human transmission of a hantavirus is extraordinarily rare. To understand why this cruise ship outbreak is an isolated anomaly and not a new widespread threat, we need to look at how this virus usually behaves. The baseline for this pathogen starts in South Korea. It is named after the Hantan River, where it was first isolated in the late 1970s. In the wild, the virus is carried almost exclusively by wild rodents, who live with it naturally without getting sick. The transfer to humans happens through a process called aerosolization. When an infected rodent leaves behind saliva, urine, or feces, those materials dry out. If a human disturbs that dried waste, it breaks into microscopic dust that gets inhaled directly into the lungs. Because the virus travels on environmental dust instead of respiratory droplets, you cannot catch it from someone coughing on a subway or shaking your hand. A person typically has to enter a rodent's specific physical environment to get sick. Once inside a human, the viral life cycle hits a dead end. This stylized map highlights a stark geographic divide. In Europe and Asia, patients typically develop HFRS, leading to severe kidney dysfunction. Cross over to the Americas, and the virus causes hantavirus pulmonary syndrome, a rapid buildup of fluid in the lungs that blocks oxygen. Because fluid rapidly fills the lungs, patients with the American variant frequently require life support from a mechanical ventilator just to keep breathing. For the European and Asian variant, the immediate medical response shifts to intensive dialysis, using a machine to filter the blood while the kidneys fail. In both cases, there is no specific vaccine or targeted antiviral medication available. Treatment is strictly supportive, meaning doctors can only keep the body running while it fights off the infection on its own. This brings us back to the specific strain currently causing alarm. It originates here, in the arid, high-altitude regions of South America. The Andes strain is a biological outlier. Out of all the known variants of hantavirus globally, it is the only one documented to jump from person to person. Even then, the transmission requires prolonged, intimate contact. It does not spread with the easy, casual efficiency of a common cold or flu virus. A cluster of cases on a tightly packed cruise ship makes sense for this specific strain, but it remains an isolated medical exception, not a new epidemiological rule. Assessing your real-world risk requires looking away from crowded public spaces and focusing instead on quiet, undisturbed environments. The highest risk locations are enclosed, rarely visited structures, like old sheds, rural cabins, or outbuildings, where wild rodents safely nest. The actual exposure happens when someone decides to clean. Sweeping or vacuuming violently forces those dried, microscopic droppings up into the breathable air. Public health guidelines mandate a simple approach. Visually inspect these spaces for rodent droppings before you disturb the air, and strictly avoid contact with wild mice and rats. If you absolutely have to clean a high-risk space, you must ventilate the area first and wear specialized protective gear, including a proper respirator mask. By treating this pathogen as an environmental pest control issue rather than a highly contagious disease, you eliminate the baseline risk entirely. That leaves the cruise ship anomaly exactly where it belongs, as a distant,